Hello and welcome back, and today we are talking about the order. God has an order, and it's so funny. I believe it was last night. See, the last night or the night before, I was listening to something where they were talking about the order. I think I was in a chat last night, and they were talking about God has an order to things. And it's so funny that I had the article that I wrote that I skipped. God always has me do things in a timely manner. I skipped posting this article content to do this video a couple days ago because I was like, nah, ain't the time for this. It's not. So I'm gonna just leave this alone. Okay? But there is an order to things. And you must understand the order. With all the things that are happening in the world, you need to understand the godly order of things. Because in the world right now, there are people that are operating in a false level of godliness and calling that the order. And it's not. It's nowhere near the order. What is the order? God, Jesus, pastor, father, husband. There is an order to things. Because God should be the number one directive. Jesus is who you pray to and pray through, because as you are praying, you are ending all of your prayers in the name of Jesus. Jesus is pretty much the middleman between you and God. Jesus puts the stamp of approval on your prayers. Your pastor, thereby, is the person that you may submit prayers to, that you go to for counsel, and these pastors can work in multiple different offices. You have pastors, you have bishops, and then you have the fivefold ministry, which is the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, the apostles, and pastor. I feel like I'm missing something, because I felt like I said pastor twice. Oh, the prophet. That was the fifth. Because pastor and preacher are the same. And then finally you have your husband, because you have your father and then your husband. Because what people don't realize, and I've learned this, what the Lord will do is He will, in some cases, if you have a father, and He's been doing this with me, He will either mend your relationship with your father before He introduces your husband to you, or He will place you with that person in order to show you something. In every season that the Lord was putting me in a rest before a shift, He always brought me back to my father's house. If you see in a previous video, I believe it was one of the Esther. It was Esther versus Cinderella. There's a moment in the video where you hear the door open and a gentleman speaks. That's my dad. God will sometimes, before He prepares you for a season of marriage, put you back with your father. And I'm seeing this happen a lot with the women that are in preparation for marriage, because there's another young woman that I listened to, and she was talking about she's been getting a lot of advice from her father in relation to marriage, because that young woman, the father and the mother have a good relationship. In my case, my mother passed away, and it's just been me and my dad for the past 17 years. So I come, I go, and the Lord leads me as He chooses. But every time He shifted me from a season of warfare to a season of rest, the resting place has always been with my dad. He did the same thing about 5 years ago before I left and went to New York for 4 years. That He put me with my dad again. Because as soon as I came back from New York, He brought me back to my dad. There's a level of order. Because the father, the physical father, represents the permission that the husband has to get in order to take you as his wife. But see, there's a level of disorder in the church. There's a level, yes, Jesus's bride is the church. Now, some would say that God's bride is the church. But you have to come to the understanding that if you read the word closely, Jesus is the actual physical manifestation of the Lord in flesh. So He is God and all man walking the earth. So He is God's Son, but He is the full embodiment of God walking in the earth with the fullness of the Word in Him. So it's God and Jesus. The church is the bride. Direct. The husband to the wife. The wife represents the church. The father to the daughter that the husband marries is the same. The father represents God, and the husband has to go through him to get to the daughter. Now that's order. Pastor, if the daughter has no father, let's say the father dies, and she's under the leadership of a pastor, more than likely she'll take the husband to be to the pastor. But he does not go over any type of religious counsel. Now, if you got the father, the pastor, and the husband to be, in certain scenarios, the Lord will allow it to be the pastor that gives approval. Now, I will say this. In some marriages, for those that are not involved in the church, because there are some that the Lord has pulled out of the church, meaning the pastor has nothing to do with this. Did they get married in a church? They may have, wherever they chose to get married. They may have had an officiant to cover them in their wedding. But it's supposed to kind of go in the order of pastoral father, husband. Which also means when you get married and you are a Christian woman, do not go to your pastor and put what your pastor says over what your husband says. Yes, you are a Christian woman. Yes, you go to the Bible studies. Yes, you go to all these things. You submit to your husband. I ain't never heard nowhere where it says you submit to your pastor and your husband is just supposed to go along with that. You submit to your husband, because when the woman runs the house is out of order. Yes, she takes care of the children. Yes, she covers the household. But when the woman is standing in the order, out of order, the household falls apart. I know a case where there was this woman, Christian, loves God all day long. Every one of her children disrespects her to the fullness. Why? Because she does not allow her husband to discipline those kids at all. Her youngest child just gave birth to a child that's about 1 to 2 years old right now. And that child is only about 17. That if she ever says anything to those children and trying to get them into order, they will curse her out to the hilt. I pray to God that she does not pass away. And it may be that she is dealing with the illnesses in her body because she is not allowing the order to happen in her household by allowing her husband to be the head of household. She feels that because she operates and goes to church, that maybe she needs to be the head of the household. The husband cannot say anything about how those kids are disciplined, and thereby her house is in disarray. Her children walk around inappropriately dressed, whether there are people visiting or not. And if she were to tell them to put your clothes on, she gonna get cussed out by every single one of them. She's had 2 bouts of cancer, and I pray to God that she's still living. This is what happens when you take the order out of your household. Am I making myself clear? Because that woman needs deliverance. Because we as women have the tendency that, yes, we have the ability to speak into our spouses, but we are not the ones that give order to the house. Our position is, yes, we are our husband's helpmeet. Yes, we cover our children and we cover our household. God will, in a kingdom marriage, give the 2 of you an assignment together. The husband is meant to work. He ain't supposed to be at home. I was listening to a minister the other day, and he was talking about how these men are becoming house husbands. And that is out of order with the Bible. And it's true. David had to go out to battle every once in a period. The reason he ended up operating in sin with Bathsheba is because he was at home when he should have been out to war. He didn't want to go out. He ain't feel like fighting. It ended up in all that mess because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. God ordains your seasons. Yes, it's difficult because when you go into seasons of warfare, you don't want to. When you got peace, you want peace. But some seasons you are meant to go out and you are to war. Some seasons you are meant to go out and you're supposed to work. For the women and for the men. The women have certain things that they're supposed to do as the wife in the house, in covering their home, and covering their kids, and covering their spouses. And they're supposed to pray together with their spouse. There was a case of somebody I know that they, in 2 different cases actually, the wife was pregnant and the enemy was bringing about specific spiritual attacks upon the woman because of the fact that he wanted them babies. So he was attacking her spiritually, giving her horrific nightmares. And they say that when a woman is pregnant that is spiritually connected, it's so much different. Because, yeah, when you just regularly dealing with spiritual warfare is one thing. But when you are under spiritual warfare and you're pregnant, it's like you are spiritually sensitive to everything. It's like you were sensitive in the spirit before. But now that you're physically pregnant, it's like you can see the spirit realm walking around on a daily basis. It's like what I'm come to understand when you become pregnant. It's like you are so spiritually aware to everything. You are so spiritually sensitive. So any type of spiritual attack come against you, that husband needs to be praying for you and with you as often as possible. Because, and in this particular case, the wife, in 2 different cases, was being spiritually attacked by the enemy with nightmares, attacks, fear, all kinds of stuff. And the husbands in both cases were not praying for the wife. And it was only that God sent in one situation her sister. One of the women had a sister, a physical sister, that loved God mightily. And she went over to the house, and she hadn't even talked to the sister in years. And she was like, "You want me to go over there? What's going on?" And she took the nudging of the Holy Spirit, went over to her sister's house, and her sister said, "I am under warfare. I don't know what in the world's going on with me." Why? Because the husband was not covering his wife while she was pregnant. Second case. The woman was pregnant. This woman has given birth to 5 other children. This 6th child, I don't know what the anointing was on that baby. But this woman went through the exact same thing. Around the beginning of the pregnancy, she started dealing with intense warfare. And she told no one because she didn't want to exacerbate it. But because she had a godly friend, get you some godly friends and prayer partners. Her prayer partner, her godly friend, who connected with her and been connected with her for a while, reached out to her and said, "Everything good with you? What's up with you?" And she would call her regularly, say, "Everything good with you?" And she was not telling her what was going on. But every day she was calling just to check in and say, "Are you good? Is everything okay?" Because she secretly was praying for her on a daily basis, because something in her spirit was saying, "Something not right there. I got to pray for this woman." You and your spouse need to pray together. You really do. I don't understand these women that are married to men and they allow their men just to, "Oh, he don't pray. He's not praying with me. It's okay." Do you understand that as the wife, that's where the enemy hit first? Yes, he wants to take the man out of the household. Absolutely. That's why we're running into these anti-alpha men, even in the church. And they're the only ones that seemingly are coming into the church, because the alpha men don't even want to come into the church. But God's working on that. And they got to be able to cover you. You can't be just marrying anybody, thinking, oh, will God ordain it? Yeah, He'll ordain you to marry who you desire to marry. But I'm telling you this right now. You sit and you pray to the Lord and ask the Lord who you're supposed to marry. Let the Lord lead you into who you're supposed to marry. Pray. Cover yourself. Cover your eye gates. Cover your ear gates. For those of you that are called to creative industries, you know the ones I'm talking about. The music industry, the acting industry. Walking into any of those scenarios, your eye gates are going to see some things. Because you're in the music industry, you're going to hear some things. It's like, but I'm Christian, so I must be gospel. Sometimes God isn't taking you into gospel. There's a few secular artists that I know of that are actually Christian. And they are operating in the secular arena. Why? Because they can speak their truth through their music and lead people to God. They weave God in their songs. They weave Him in. And they are reaching a larger mass of people than what would happen if they were in just gospel music or CRM. And CRM is so tainted, it's ridiculous. Because you have to come to the understanding that if a Christian can go into the secular music industry, how do you not know that there are actual satanic people not in the gospel industry? In the CRM industry. How do you know? So you have to cover your family. You got to cover your ears. The Lord showed me one day. It was about 1.5 years ago. I was praying at the side of my bed. He showed me. It was around December 2020. I had just finished listening to a sermon. And I went into prayer about what I had heard. And I saw a series of pictures pass over my eyes. It was like I was seeing. You ever see those videos where you know it's a series of pictures going by and you're seeing them like slow motion cap? It was what I was seeing of a slow motion cap of me at exactly in the position I was on the corner of my bed in prayer on my knees with my hands over time. The room changed. The bedroom changed. But it was always the same thing. The furniture changed. The color of the furniture changed. The wall color changed. But I was still on the corner of the bed. And I saw from day to night. I saw. It was the Lord showing me that for years to come, my best weapon would be on my knees at the side of the bed in prayer. Know the order. Know the order. God, Jesus, pastor, father, husband, then wife and kids. Take any of these things out of order, and your household will be out of order. God comes first in all things. And be very concerned if you're hearing people have the audacity to tell you that Jesus does not exist. Run for the hills if you hear any minister saying Jesus does not exist. Why am I saying this? Because of the fact that Jesus is the most powerful name in existence in our society. The music industry will not allow most people to write that word. It's contractual in the 3 major companies for the music industry. There are 3 major companies, and I guarantee you most of their contracts, before they pay out anything, they will give these people contracts to say, I don't care if you are in gospel or not, you cannot say the name Jesus. Pay attention to your gospel music and understand the flack that these people will get for saying the name Jesus. And I know that they were saying at one particular point that when Erica Campbell came out with what is the name of it? It was the second song that she came out with on her solo album, talking about Jesus. I'm hearing it in my head and can't think of the name of it. They said that it was some flack behind that. Musiq Soulchild, for the song that you hear that he wrote, Love, it wasn't supposed to be love there. It was supposed to be God, but they made him change it. So for those of y'all that are called to creative industries, there are Christians in these industries. They just covertly in these industries. And I guarantee you half of them are friends with each other. Because they know they can't be friends with everybody else. But there needs to be an order. There must be an order. And you must operate in the order of God. Because if you do not, look at what happened to that young woman in her household. Kids disrespectful, doing whatever they want. Because she's not allowing the husband to be the father and the leader by submitting to him that household. The house is in disarray. There is no order. Because what happens in the spirit, it reflects in the natural. Her house is physically in disarray because her spiritual house is in disorder. Get the right order and operate in it. Because if you do not, look what happens. One of the most important things next to walking in your walk with God is if you choose to be one to marry, please allow the Lord to lead you to your spouse. Because if you do it by yourself and just didn't do an ordained marriage, because all ordained marriage is the Lord allowing you to marry you who you choose. But if you give that decision to God, I guarantee you he will surprise you. Because let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you the type of person that I thought that I might be interested in marrying. I'm not going to tell you who the Lord showed me I'm going to marry. I prayed at one point in time for that person that loved God and had an acumen with finance, so that they could help me in business as I'm developing business and business order for my finances. That's all I really wanted. But you know, I'm going to tell you why that would not have worked. And I learned this later on. That what the enemy will do is he'll send you what you think that you want. He could send me somebody tall, somebody dark like my father, somebody that's got an accounting record, he's into the creative industry, he's loves God, and that man could be dealing with so much insecurity that he could still have the foothold of the things that were spiritual curses on my family bloodline. Because what happens is the spiritual curse on my family bloodline is abuse. And as we know, abusive narcissists start off as somebody that you love and then will turn on you, gaslight you, abuse you. I have an entire teaching on this. I do not know when that's going to happen. The Lord has not given me release to do that. I'm not sure whether he wants me to wait until the ministry lifts up to a degree. But he's given me a word on speaking types of men that don't have the right energy. I knew a woman. She thought that she was going to marry a pastor. She turned around, she married the pastor because she thought that that was a safe choice. That man beat her every day that she was married to him. But the one that the Lord has shown me, he fits every area of where the Lord is taking me. Don't ever accept someone that is where you are. Let the Lord stretch you to the person that is where you're going. That's the best advice I could ever give you. So that husband will be able to cover you, carry you, and cover your household. And you know that they have God in them. So we're at the end of the video. I hope this blessed you. This is Taj McCameron for the ministry Love, Faith, Peace, and Blessings Ministries. Until next time, bye-bye.